Many people ask me right away, why am I into Japanese sake? What do I know about Japanese sake? To learn about sake, you had to learn about the history and culture of Japan. I came to Japan in 1994 for the first time, and as soon as I landed, I knew that it was going to be a very important place for me for the rest of my life. Sake is about an experience. It's about culture, it's about tradition, it's about also looking forward. The more I traveled in Japan, and the more I saw the differences of food and sake, the more I got interested. And through those travels, I started to learn about the culture and traditions and history of Japan. I was more than interested in sake. It had started to become a passion. We're back in Japan on our annual brewing season tour, and we're just south of Osaka in Wakayama Prefecture at Hayward Brewery. This brewery is very instrumental in bringing sake to the younger generation with their special brand called Kiddo. Let's go inside and learn more about how this brewery is bringing sake to the next younger generation.
そうですね、これからの日本酒をそういう若い方や海外の方に広めるのってもう一番大切だと思っていまして、でやっぱりその今一番やりやすいのはひょっとしたらこう、年の取ったですね方々に飲んでいただくっていうのが一番いいのかも、一番売れるのかもしれないんですけど、逆にその若い方々にそういう日本酒の良さということを伝えていかないと、僕たち酒の文化ってもう終わってしまうんじゃないかって思っているんですよ。でその難しいことだけどもやりがいのあることが、そういう若い方に伝えていくことじゃないかなと。で、その根本にあるのは、自分たちがいい酒を作る、いい酒を作った上でいろんなこう広めるような活動で知っていただくっていうのが大事かなって思ってますね。
The future of sake needed to go international. The sake industry and the sake consumption had been going down for about 10 years, and that many breweries and family traditions were closing or disappearing. There's lots of people helping bring sake to the international market, and we all need to work together. But we feel, and I feel, that we have a very different approach, and that's why we say here we want to lead a global sake movement. We promote the sharing culture, that we have incredible, real, authentic sake created, brewed in Japan, and very important, put sake where it's never been tasted or found before. Many of the brewers, the toji, get very excited about electronic music. So when we come together, it's usually a big explosion. This is some of, I guess, what you would call the ENTER.Sake values of what we're promoting. Bringing sake into club culture with ambassadors who believe and have knowledge in sake, to again honor sharing culture and to look forward and progressive and respect the culture of sake. Clubbing isn't the only area that we're trying to bring, that we're trying to promote sake. Also, we're doing a lot of special food pairings and dinner events. And these type of events, we want them to be fun and also innovative, because I think that's what I try to do in my music. It should be fun, but it should be progressive and modern. And I also think all of our breweries are doing the same thing. They have tradition, but they're looking forward to create new tastes and new innovation. It's very important that we're introducing new people to sake. We need to connect to international market. We need to connect to the young people. And so we want to make sure that we give an incredible first experience. If someone has a bad experience with sake or with anything, they may never return. And to deliver the most incredible experience for the first time or for a sake connoisseur, we've collaborated with some of the most incredible breweries in Japan. You know, I come to Japan, I travel, I'm drinking and trying, I'm visiting different breweries. And the breweries that I find a connection with, a connection in taste, a connection of the workers, of the toji, this is how we decide that would be a good partner. Our partners are our friends are our partners. I remember the first moment I came to Matsumoto. It was about 2008. I was doing the sake sommelier course. And we came in and we saw these old buildings and the chimney. And then we all went into the old house and sat on the tatami mats in front of this beautiful garden. And this was before I even tasted the sake. But the feeling of the Matsumoto Shuzo was already there. And then when you took that feeling, that picture, and then tasted, it was a perfect moment. The Matsumoto brothers take more control and find a way to take their tradition and heritage of their father, of their grandfathers, and bring their own ideas and look forward, but always respecting the past. There's many beautiful kuras in this area because of the water. That Fushimi water in Japan is very, very highly regarded. And that sake is 80% water. This has to be part of the beginning of what makes Matsumoto and Shuhari an incredible sake to begin with. I believe in the creativity and the quality of sake and of the breweries we're working with, just as much as I believe in technology, but also at a high quality, and the aesthetics that bring all this together and bring, my two passions together. Music, actually three passions, music, sake, and both tied together by technology. I hope that by supporting and growing the international sake community, that I can support each of the tojis, each of the brewmasters, so that they can be as creative as possible. Together we can actually help this incredible industry expand and let Japan reach the rest of the world.
I am not only honored, I am just so looking forward to opening up the line to Richie Hawtin and catching up with our dear friend in Berlin. Richie, you there?
I am here, early morning Berlin, saying hello.
Hey, there you are.
Hey, I'm here.
Fantastic. And we've also got another person who has been, I would say, a mentor, a guiding light, a sensei to you from the very early days of your journey. That's our dear friend, John Gautner. Hi, John.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We're pushing to the end. We're pushing to the end. This is the penultimate session, and what a session! I'm really looking forward to doing a check-in with you, Richie. Finding out where you are, literally where you are, catching up with your news, as well as discussing, what you've been up to, and what's happening in the future. And John, who has such a deep knowledge of you and your story as well. I mean, I think it's going to be great for us to have a chat with you and learn about what's been going on in the last year, because we have not seen you.
Yeah, well, well, I think it's great to be here with both of you. And like you said, John and I's story, started, well, my kind of professional story of sake started in John's class, like many others. And so maybe, John, he may even remember the epiphany moment where the funny musician sitting between a lot of wine sommeliers was kind of like, oh, I think I have a crazy idea here. And here we are 12 or 15 years later, talking about how that idea, I guess, has developed and how new ideas have come. And I guess well, all of our love of sake and my specific viewpoint or kind of different angle that I've been trying to take with, introducing sake to the global community and trying to keep it as fun and trendy and cool as possible.
Yeah, well, because I'm feeling a big gap in my heart right now, because this time of year, as Facebook memory photos keep on telling me, you are usually in Japan doing an ENTER.Sake event, or you're usually around this time of year. Your touring schedule is cycling through the Japan region, and we get to enjoy here in Japan an amazing ENTER.Sake music multisensory experience. So I'm guessing that music touring isn't really happening this year for you, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The music industry, for those who don't know, has been kind of decimated. Bringing large groups of people together in nightclubs or in concerts was one of the, it's probably going to be one of the first industries that come back. So I've had 9 months off, and I probably have another year off before I go back into full activity. So during that time, for those people who know me, I'm pretty, I like to grab things for the better and look at positivity and use this time for creativity and doing more sake involved projects. Like you said, normally I would be in Japan. It's the first time I haven't been in Japan in a year for about 25 years. So I'm heartbroken in that, but luckily, in June this year, in Germany, in Berlin, we opened our own small sake boutique. And so 5 days a week when we're open, I have a little slice of Japan here with my partners that probably is allowing me to still feel very close to my favorite country, even when I haven't been able to visit. So there is, there's always a silver lining. It's just how you look at things.
You're definitely you're talking this one up, because Buddy opened up basically a sake retail and tasting experience in the middle of a global pandemic. Now, come on. You're really finessing the positivity on this one. So first of all, let's break it down for people. So what we're talking about is Sake 36, correct?
Yes, yeah. So we in June this year, we opened a shop called Sake 36. We like to kind of refer to it to a boutique or a sake destination, because we are a number of things. We're a distribution point for sake, doing B2B sales with the local restaurants and across Europe. And then we are also a place to visit and learn about sake and enjoy sake. You can buy bottles and take them home. And of course, when we're fully operational, we're also a tasting bar room, not a late night sake bar, which most people would think I would have, more of a place to come in the early evening and enjoy really wonderful sake. And, I say boutique because it's the lifestyle of sake. It's putting sake in front of people in a really warm environment and making it fun and cozy, and kind of being light on the education unless people really start to ask questions, which we're happy to answer, but making it a really enjoyable night out with an absolutely beautiful beverage that we all know makes you feel wonderful. And we send customers home in a great mood. And nearly all of those customers come back for a visit. So it's, yeah, it's just giving people a warm, inviting, welcoming destination for the world of sake.
So it's not just a sake tasting space. My understanding, it's also retail. So it's B2C in terms of a tasting space, retail. So people can come to your shop and buy a bottle of sake. There's also online sales, and there's also distribution connected into the Sake 36 platform. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're really, you know, back to opening in COVID, we have many layers of the business, you know, so we were able to kind of navigate and kind of change as things started to develop with lockdowns and changes, and still be able to run a successful business. You know, originally we expected to have a lot more B2B restaurant on-premise sales, but of course, when restaurants are closed, you're not able to do that. But being a shop first, you know, a place where customers just come in and as a retail experience, we've been able to stay open nearly the whole COVID because it's a place which kind of is in Germany classifies under food and hasn't been closed. And I guess that's what we saw. You know, we were of course working on this project before COVID, and we were looking at opening around May or June, and you know, we didn't want to delay, and we could see that as many places were closing and people were being isolated, you know, people needed to kind of get out and were looking for excitement, looking for something new, and looking to feel good. And we kind of hit all those things. Again, we know that a great glass of sake gives you a beautiful, warm feeling. I think, you know, Max, my partner, and Laura, we love sake, so we're very welcoming with the people coming in. And so people were finally out of isolation in Berlin, Germany, looking for a new destination, looking for a new experience. And that all worked for our kind of advantage and benefit. And it became a really, especially over the summer, we had, you know, tables outside, 20, 30 people outside, hanging out, sitting on, you know, around, chatting, drinking sake on a street outside in Berlin. It was just a beautiful scene, you know.
And I think because this didn't happen overnight. Of course, you're a man who plans and has got a strategy for everything. And this conversation I first heard of, I think, about 2 years ago, maybe. And at that time, it had a slightly different name, but it was the same concept. And it sort of progressed. The name's changed actually 2 times now. But you came upon Sake 36, and I knew the reasons, the logical, obvious reasons for the first names of the concept. But then Sake 36, I was wondering what's the significance of that name, Sake 36, because it's not by accident. You're very thoughtful with the way you make these decisions.
Yeah, well, yeah, we did have a number of other names, a little bit more flowery, and we, you know, we're about sake, and we want to be humble. We want to welcome everyone into this world. And the area that we're in, the district of Berlin, each area has a different number, and we're actually happen to be in the area which is number 36, which is used in a lot of businesses around here to just kind of denote that they're a local business. And we also happen to be on our street, Reichenberger, number 36. So this number kept coming up, and we just thought Sake 36 as we are a destination of sake. We're nothing more, we're nothing less. You know, we just want people to come in and feel grounded. And, you know, even if you're a sake expert, you can come in and have some of the best sake. But if you've never had sake before, you're welcome. And we're here to, you know, bring you into this world that we love, and hopefully, you know, just open up the experience and the the idea of what sake is. You know, and I
And
think
you're
that's
amazing.
really important for us, is to, you know, kind of take sake, you know, away from any ideas of that sake only works with a certain cuisine, or, you know, kind of some misconceptions. So we wanted to keep it really simple, really pure, and really approachable.
So in the amazing video that introduced this session, there was a really important point towards the end, which is that you're not only about connecting people, it's not just about music, it's not just about sake, it's about connecting people, and also being able to provide people with an amazing first impression. So I'm curious, because you haven't opened this kind of platform before, I know this is a new one for you. How are you providing this amazing first experience, this first encounter with people? What are you doing specifically that is that maybe other people around the world can listen to and use as maybe as you know, advice, suggestion, just hearing another opinion of how someone is penetrating into a local community and becoming part of a community with sake in a non-Japanese way?
Yeah, well, there's many different levels of that. You know, again, I go back to the word of boutique. You know, when you go shopping and sometimes you're walking down the street, you know, something may catch your eye and you're looking into a place. It could be selling anything, and if it's presented correctly and there's a warm feeling, just something about it makes you want to walk in. So that was on the design level. That was very important for us to have warm wood tones with that kind of had let's say a sensibility that was Japanese, but not overly Japanese, so that it didn't feel like you had to be a Japanese insider to walk through. So we really wanted it to be, you know, welcoming and that kind of contemporary feeling before you even knew what the place was. And then along the one wall, which you see as soon as you walk in, and even from the outside, you see these, you know, 4 beautiful fridges, which are just full of sake, which many people in Japan are used to, but you very, very rarely see sake presented that way internationally. And you see all these colors and beautiful labels, and it's just beautiful. It's like, wow, what is that in there? I want to go in there and look. Maybe I don't even know it's a sake shop. So there's that first impression, and I think the second impression comes down to the human factor. And whether it's myself or Max or Laura working, we're in here, we're smiling, the lights are up. If we see somebody outside, you know, kind of peering in, the first thing we do is go and open the door and say, hi, how are you? You know, we're a sake shop. And people are like, wow, sake, well, come in. Or what's sake? Well, Japanese sake, it's this beautiful beverage. And we start talking, and we just try to, you know, share our passion. You know, Rebecca, you know me enough, also John, like, I think, you know, maybe that comes from my connection in the music world. You know, if you can share your passion and this positive energy to people, whether that's people in front of you in a crowd, whether that's a customer looking into your shop or a customer sitting down for their first drink, that's infectious. And then you just, the last point I would say would be listen to the customer. You know, many people come in and they're like, hey, I really don't know anything, you know, and the first thing we kind of ask is, okay, well, are you more on the sweeter side or are you more on the drier side? And we start this very easy, basic discussion, and we try to, like you said, put that first sake on the table that is either a home run or something that continues the conversation. And with each extra glass, we're navigating and making sure people walk out with, again, that wonderful, beautiful first or second or 100th sake drink.
That's fantastic. And I think it's important also to point out that ENTER.Sake and Sake 36 are siblings. They're not and they do sort of exist in some same plane, but they're very different platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're different platforms. They're different. I'm involved, of course, in both, but I have different partners on both of the projects. They're siblings in the way that, you know, they learn from each other. And one of the things that I've learned with, or that we would learn with ENTER.Sake, is that, you know, sake you find very often on premise at a restaurant, and it's always, well, quite often it's in a Japanese context, and whatever the restaurant is, it's always sitting behind the food. It's not the star. And so learning from that in nearly every country around the world, that gave part of the idea of having a retail kind of destination point where sake was the star. We have a couple of little nibbles here, like we have some rice crackers that are actually made in Hamburg, Germany. We have some olives, but other than that, there is no other reason to come here except to enjoy sake. You know, and you know, like I think, you know, John has been the kind of the gatekeeper of opening up the world of sake to people who wanted to come in on a deep level, or professional, or who were really, you know, really people who had to have more information of sake. But then after that, there's all of us going out there now to try and get the kind of average, or let's say like kind of just the general sake consumer, you know, to kind of come more in the door. And so we really need places where people can go and really learn and enjoy. And it's only about the sake. It's not necessarily about, you know, of course it's about Japan because it's Japanese sake, but it's you know, think about a Japanese restaurant. It's still Japanese food and Japanese themed first, and then sake comes. So here, sake is the king.
Well, let's throw it over to the other king, John. So I'd love to, because unfortunately, none of us could have traveled to Berlin for your opening, sadly.
Right, unfortunately.
But it would be great to hear John's thoughts on what you're doing and observations.
Well, I just have more questions, actually. I'd like to get there and see it before I give observations. How many brands do you carry right now?
Right now, we're at 15 breweries. We just got a couple more coming in. We have about 50 different, I don't like to say products, but, you know, items in our fridges at any
From across the
one time.
15 breweries.
Yeah. So.
Why don't you like to call them products, out of curiosity?
Well, you know, it's
too clinical.
It's like it comes from my music world. I think when people start talking about CDs and records as products, I think, you know, sake and music, they're more than that. There's something in them. They're part of humanity. They're creative. You know, they're creative outputs. So product just sounds too like a widget. I don't like it.
I understand that, actually. And you're right. It does. It does. Are you importing them all yourself?
Yes. Yeah, that is actually, you know, for when we came together, Max, my partner, and I, Max was running a distribution company here in Germany called Tokuri. And we just started talking because we're sake friends and sake geeks. We were importing and distributing ENTER.Sake, and we just thought, hey, could we do something together? And so that kind of came together in the idea of, well, distribution, importing some ENTER.Sake, having a B2B business, and having a kind of a showroom was the first idea, to be honest. Having a place where we could invite real professionals just to come down in a nice environment and taste our portfolio. And that, you know, slowly developed into a place which wasn't only professional, it was actually more consumer facing to just kind of celebrate and enjoy sake. So direct importing with a combination of relationships that Max had, that I had, and that we're slowly looking, and of course, meeting many people that would like to kind of connect with for the future.
So you've got you said about 60 products from about 15 breweries, you said?
50 products.
50 from are all the Enter products coming in?
Yeah, ENTER.Sake, we have, depending on the kind of the additions each year with ENTER.Sake, we have about 5 to 6, 7 Enter. So you can also see, ENTER.Sake, the purpose of that by name and definition is the entry point into the world of sake. It's quite often, it's quite often something we may pour for a first-time, person walking in the door. If they're saying they want something a little bit more sweeter and floral, we may pour Enter Silver. If they're looking for a bit more rustic, we may go for Enter Black, which is a Honjozo from Sakia-san. But from there, that's 7 products, 7 sake within that whole portfolio. So it's just part of the mission and part of our portfolio.
If you are trying to create an entry portal, so to speak, people for to get into it right away, I'm sure you've got people coming in and saying, well, I like that cloudy stuff, or I like the unpasteurized stuff, or, well, I've only had it warm. I'm wondering if you, and this is the question, do you stock nigori? Do you encourage nigori? Do you encourage experimentation with temperature? Or do you say, well, let's start with chilled Junmai Ginjo and kind of leave it at that? And furthermore, the next question, all right, we'll stop one question at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah, like we because we opened in the summer, we did stay away from warming sake because people were outside. And it was easy to kind of keep that to the side because a lot of people, like we know, in the international market have had perhaps less than perfect experiences with hot sake. So we and definitely there was some interest in nigori, which we're actually adding more to our portfolio now. We didn't come out of the gate with that many. Nama unpasteurized, I feel in America that's a bigger thing than here at the moment, maybe because there's more awareness there, but we really didn't have that much, that many questions or requests for that.
Oh, is that right?
So kind of, with the amount of sake we had, it was really listening to the customer and either taking them on a, sometimes we jump straight to a tamagawa. Somebody walks in and says, they're like, I want something big and bold and I like strong drinks. Then we're like, okay, well, are you ready for 17% or 18%? And they're like, give it to me.
We got you covered.
So it's really listening and like Max and Laura and I, we all have different ways to connect with the customer, but we all of us watching, I'm sure, love sake. And the worst thing that can happen is that a customer leaves who just didn't really like what they were served. So, so whether that means like putting buy the glass of something that costs €6 or 12 euros or 20 euros, or someone's coming in to buy a bottle and there's a 20 euro bottle of sake or an 89 euro bottle of sake. It's like, hey, it's what is going to be best for this person, for this situation. We have a lot of people coming in saying, I'm going to a birthday party. Like, I love sake, I love tamagawa, but I'm going to a birthday party and no one likes sake or no one really knows it, but I want all my friends to like sake. So maybe at that point you say, well, keep tamagawa for yourself for today, and let's maybe go to something a little bit more harmonious for 8 different people that we really, like, we don't know. That's just an example. Like, we love tamagawa, but you can see it's a lot of it's a lot of listening to the customer and being very sensitive to their needs and to their likes and to what they're anticipating.
Do you have a lot of customers or people that's showing an interest in sake at your place that already know a lot about wine or even are wine professionals? Like, for example, do you have a lot of SAMs coming in checking stuff out?
Yeah, more and more. Like, I think during COVID, a lot of the restaurants have been really in tough situations.
Sure.
So I think everybody is.
And that makes the SAMs want to drink?
Yeah, it's true. I think people are overworked, but we've still seen a lot of restaurateurs and sommeliers come in and have their first tastings and request. A lot of people saying as soon as we're ready to boot back up into our full beverage program, sake is going on the menu. Like, It's crazy, John. Like on a Saturday afternoon on, in the summer, my music studio is just around the corner. And so I would come back around in the afternoon to see Max and Laura and how things are going. And there was like 20, 25 people sitting, people standing up, drinking sake outside, the sun shining. Then you walk in and there's people drinking sake, all ages, all ethnicities. Like it's like every time I see it, I still can't believe it's happening, because it's just natural, and the people are really, really accepting it. The door doesn't stop.
I think it's your approach, Richie. I mean, you're super humble, but I think it's also your approach. And what you're doing is as you're saying, you are listening to people. And so often people don't listen, especially if you've got a little bit of knowledge. There is a tendency to say, oh yeah, I can hear what you're saying, but I think this. And, so I thought it was really interesting, your comment that you're not hearing requests for namazake or unpasteurized sake, or Morocco Namagenshu maybe, or an unfined charcoal filtered sake. And I think it's mainly because people are just approaching sake in your community based on flavor and aroma, and ultimately whether they like it or not. And I think that is actually a kind of an ideal market, because there are sometimes a little bit of knowledge can create kind of little speed bumps or unnecessary hurdles, in that people think they know something, but unless they try it and experience it and have it in their hand themselves, they're making a decision based on data rather than actually a sensory reaction to the sake. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the sensory reaction is like, that's what goes direct to your your heart. Maybe that's also comes from my background of being in music and touching people with something, through hearing, and now we're working with taste. It's just like like when I'm playing music, I want to play all the records that I love, and I want people to love them as much as I do. But sometimes, if I know that before I play my favorite record A, I need to play B and C to get the people kind of warmed up, get them dancing a little bit before I kind of like, take them to where I really want to take them. And so maybe that's a little bit the same with sake. Like, of course, I want everybody to get as geeky as me and love like a big, bold chochin. But maybe, and some people may be ready for it right when they walk into the door, but maybe they're not. So I just want, and it's a long tail approach. It's not about a quick sale. It's not about like wowing people. Hey, this is so crazy and funky. I just want people to say, hey, this is delicious.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what
that's what the brewers want too, Richie.
Yeah, other than like, okay, we have to eat and drink to so we don't keel over and die. But other than that, why do we eat and drink things? It's like for a sensory, warm, beautiful, great experience. And if you have that, not only do you come back, but you tell your friends about that. You do an Instagram post, you do a selfie saying, wow, this sake is amazing. And that's also, of course, part of what we're doing, I think, here with social media really well. Not it's actually not what we're doing, but our customers are doing a lot of reposting and sharing. We're also, like these are some little cards that we do, which are in here. And these are posters that we have kind of like graffiti on the outside of our shop. And what is it? It's just beautiful sake bottles, very simple, very minimalistic, of course, but these are the stars. And I've always believed, like I believed with going into a record shop, you see a great cover and you're like, you haven't even heard the music yet. You're like, I want to hear that. And when somebody comes into our shop, once we've opened the door and said, please come in, come in, and they look, and sometimes the customer will say this, they will say, I don't know much or I don't know anything, but I want to try that right there. And then you say, maybe no matter what you say, that's what they're going to try. But you could say, and then tell them about that sake, tell them about the taste, or maybe tell them a bit about the history because they've been to Japan and they would like to know that that's from Niigata. So again, listening and giving people making it fun, making it welcoming.
So ENTER.Sake was a platform for you to create a brand that would introduce your audience to sake, originally at your events in Ibiza, I believe. And now what I'm hearing from you is that Sake 36 is kind of pushing through the door, you've gone through that portal and now into expanding sake experiences, a kind of a sake immersion environment. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, well, like, saying sake, in ENTER.Sake at clubs and also in restaurants. Again, it's still tying sake to different experiences. Everything about Sake 36 is just, it's just about sake. Again, we just want to feature that and highlight that. That is the social aspect of sake.
On the back end of that, though, you have a new platform which is untested, and you are importing sake from Japan. Tell me a little bit about the relationship building, because this is not just ENTER.Sake, this is other sake outside of the ENTER.Sake family of labels. So, I mean, you're also providing breweries, as you've just shown us, with amazing market positioning, brand storytelling. But I also understand that you're doing something quite innovative with your storage as well. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if it's innovative. It's one of the other things that, we learned with ENTER.Sake. We have incredible partners around the world with ENTER.Sake, distributors, customers in stores and shops and restaurants. But every country has a different logistic pipeline, so you really never know how long sake is taking to get to a certain country, how the condition is, how it's been looked after. And so one of the very key parts of Sake 36 was to, commit to handling everything from beginning to end so that our customers have as close of an experience to being at a brewery tasting, or let's say at least being in Tokyo at the best sake bar, in quality and consistency. So like I said to John, we have direct relationships to all our brewers. We pick up from the brewery and then we control it from that brewery until we pour it into the glass of the customer in Berlin. And that, really doesn't happen very often outside, of Japan, because it's always other different middle people or distributors. And, I'm not saying anything wrong about that, because we need all that infrastructure. But for us, it was our commitment to kind of live up to the expectations of our breweries and to the quality of the sake that they were producing, to do our very, very best with temperature controlled logistic flow, so that our customers really are appreciating a senkin for how, Usui-san has actually brewed that batch of sake.
Yeah, that's really crucial, because all of us will agree that we are spoiled for choice here in Japan. We have, we are living in the best time, I believe, the best time to be drinking sake, with a new generation and older generations, everyone creating fantastic sake. And we're also getting a handle on some technical things like temperature control, and making sure that from the brewery to the end consumer, we can provide an environment for that sake to transition to the final glass and stay in kind of a genuine quality assured condition. I mean, John, I want to throw over to you, because you are kind of you're a distribution guy, and you might have some follow-up questions with Richie about what he's doing.
Well, I mean, I could ask a gazillion questions, and I'm not so sure all of them are public knowledge, but basically you control temperature from the time it leaves to the brewery to the time it gets to your shop. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
I think, go ahead.
Well, I think there's many different opinions about what temperature, and each part of the let's say the logistical journey that sake takes will still have different people handling it, from the brewery to the port, from the port, you know, on the reefer container, you know, once it gets to Hamburg or where it's coming into Europe, you know. So I think it's very difficult to say we're going to dial this into whatever 0 degree and keep that exactly from beginning to end. So we have found, you know, a temperature that we can keep consistent, because all of my talks to brewers, everyone has a little different viewpoint of, let's say, from -5 to 5 degrees is kind of the range that most people are talking about. But what I heard from the brewers is that more than the temperature, well, you know, the second part is consistency. Any big swings, exactly. So it's finding that balance of those two, and also every sake is different. Not every sake needs to be kept at -5. Some are great and can be, you know, probably at 15 or 18 degrees. But what our opinion is that no matter what style of sake, if we keep a cold supply chain, that when it gets to us, it's still in as close to the condition as it was in the brewery. And then if we want to warm a sake up, if we want to, you know, again, I'm gonna go back to Philip Harper in Tamagawa, who's like, open it up, leave it, see how it's gonna be in 6 months. Like, you know, it's, if that's the brewer intention, then we're happy to pass that on to our customer and allow them to play with it, or we will play with it too, if that is part of the philosophy of that sake. But at least the main point for us is that it gets to Sake 36 in our storage downstairs as close as it was when it left the brewery.
That's God's work, I tell you what. And it's not an easy job. But we are getting slowly towards the twilight hours of the session, and I really wanted to make sure that I sort of segued back to ENTER.Sake, because obviously we're all aware that there's a global pandemic, and as such, there have probably been difficulties with importation and exports. And so I was really wanting to get a catch up on where ENTER.Sake is and your potential future plans for ENTER.Sake from now and maybe moving forward in the near future.
Yeah, well, I won't sugarcoat that, because the success we're having.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, well, you know, with everything we've just talked about with Sake 36, the big success here has been that we have this off-premise people we're a bottle shop. We haven't had to worry too much about restaurants being closed. But you know, ENTER.Sake main territory is North America, and we've seen a good portion or percentage of our customers either close temporarily, or some of them actually close for good. So this has been, I think, for the sake industry, at least from our viewpoint, a very, very, very challenging year, finding ways to kind of pivot and find new channels for ENTER.Sake where people could order it online or get more quantity to places that people can go and shop for you know, for our collection. And that's just really making us think, okay, how do we, I guess, you know, how are we better prepared for something like this in the future? And I think that really comes down to, again, kind of connecting to Sake 36. You know, for the sake industry to continue to grow, we need to get sake in places where it shines, where it becomes more of the star, or in places where sake becomes part of people's lifestyle. You know, I always say this in a very careful way, you know, because I love Japanese food and Japanese culture, and that's what brought me to Japanese sake. But as tequila separated itself a little bit from you know, kind of being something that you only enjoyed when you had Mexican food, you know, it became something that people saw as something they could enjoy in many different circumstances and situations. And so we have to find ways to bring sake into that same kind of situation. Sake
I
will
do
always
believe
be
we're moving
connected
in
to
the right
Japan.
direction, though. I really do.
Sorry?
I do believe we're moving in that direction.
I agree 100%.
We need to accelerate that movement in that direction. But I agree 100% with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And Richie, I'm not sure if I can jump the gun a little bit, but you are wanting to find ways to support your ENTER.Sake partners, given things have been difficult. You're kind of pivoting and making a new approach.
Yeah, we actually have a special promotion that's going to be coming up because one of the things that ENTER.Sake never really did, except for a couple of special editions, was sell any of our editions in Japan, because we are always, our goal is to increase awareness and sales in the international market. But because some of this slower momentum of sales internationally, we're going to be offering and announcing very soon some exclusive limited edition supplies of ENTER.Soku from Fujioka-san in Kyoto, in Japan, a special Ishobin, a special QR code, and some other surprises. And with Sakia-san from Horizon, from Aichi, we're going to be having a special ENTER.Sake pack that will be announced in the coming weeks for, you know, our Japanese sake and music fans. You know, we've always had people, oh, we want some over here, but it wasn't our mission. But there's going to be a little surprise over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned.
Sake Future Summit audience, you heard it here first. So we're looking forward to that, and we're going to connect everyone who follows this session with Richie's, Sake 36 ENTER.Sake link, so that you can follow, you can connect to his sites and get those latest announcements about this limited edition domestic package for Japan. Massive, massive emotion happening, because that means I can finally drink ENTER.Sake on a regular basis too, maybe, in Japan. I usually have to wait for Richie to come to Japan each time to sample your wares. But Richie, look, thank you so much for your time. Now we do have only got a few minutes, but John, any final words for our dear friend in Berlin?
Rebecca, there's like 65 questions I have, and none of them are shorter than a 10-minute answer. So, I mean, because seriously, there's so much I would like to ask, and every single question would take 20 minutes. I'm gonna have to politely say, yeah, I'm good this time. But Rich, thanks very much. It was great to chat with you.
I guess we should.
And so informally. And Rebecca, thanks for putting so much organization behind this to drive it so well. Thank you very much.
It was an easy subject matter, you know. Richie, and honestly, when Richie and I were preparing for this session, I just listened to him and went, yeah, okay, Richie, you go. I'm just going to navigate.
I'll just throw in a couple things and you keep yakking. And it worked out really well. And we could go for another 4 hours that way, I'm sure.
So we were planning on maybe extending with a bit of a brewery tour, and we've only got a few minutes. Rich, and because we're actually going to go on to another show after this that couldn't play this morning. You mentioned just before about that refrigerator that was hooking people in, and I can see it's just behind you. Are you able to give us a little bit of a...
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Already I can see. That's very, very cool. That's gorgeous.
So let's here we go. Some sake.
Awesome.
Something tells me it probably
that's-
costs you more than the rest of the
bar.
building, but what do I know? Oh, very cool.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that is very, very cool.
Gosh, I haven't seen that back wall yet. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, hang on. You just skipped past a very important magazine, a very important publication with a very important woman. Just rewind. There you go.
That is a great magazine. And who's the woman? Oh yeah, she's very important too, isn't she?
Another alumni from you, John.
That's true, Mama.
I think most of us. I think most of us. So look, it's as John says. I could ask 30 million questions. You could put a load of zeros after that. But thank you, John, for your time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Very much for your
time. And it's just been a pleasure to catch up on your news. And again, like as we're looking forward to reconnecting with you soon. But knowing that you're there, doing what you're doing is just, it's just inspirational.
It really is
And,
inspiring. It really is inspiring. Very much so, yeah. That was the word I was going to use too, so it's very cool.
Well, you know, I think we're all in this together, and if we can get more people just, you know, enjoying sake like we do, you know, it's that one drink that can change somebody's mind, and that's what we've got to make sure that we do for one new, you know, always a new person, spreading the love of the culture and the taste of sake.
Right.
Richie, I hope you've got a glass ready.
Oh, I do, and
I know it's the morning, but.
I do actually. I just opened this beautiful sentence. So.
All right, I've actually got something from your brand in my glass in preparation. So, John, Richie, thank you for your time and your insight. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So,
Rebecca, thanks to you for putting it all together.
Cheers to you.
Who's that long-haired dude next to you? Justin, thank you too for putting this all together.
Oh, hey there.
Cheers, come by.
Richie, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in with us here. Can't thank you enough for making time.
Come
very much.
by.
My
Bye.
privilege. Come by.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Bye.
You guys be well.
Bye, everybody.